Hey, have you ever been so busy you feel like you're putting out fires all day long and you never get the really important stuff done in your company, in your life? Well, let me tell you something. If you understand the 4 quadrants of time, it can take you a long way towards getting organized and work on the important things first and then worry about the firefighting. Check this out.
Dr. Covey and Dwight Eisenhower took the concept of time and broke it into quadrants, right? 4 equal quadrants. So quadrant number 1 is what I call firefighting. These are activities in your life, in your business, that are urgent and important. They're urgent because it's an angry customer who just called. You can't ignore it. And it's important because it's an important customer that just spent 30 grand with you. Another example could be something in your personal life. Your kid's at school, falls off, the merry-go-round and gets hurt. The school calls and says, hey, your kid's got a broken leg. It's urgent, it's got to be handled now, and it's important, it's your kid. So there's a lot of stuff in your life in quadrant 1 that is important and urgent. But this is the constant firefighting. Things in quadrant 1 are acting on you. I mean, they're coming to you. They're imposing on you. And it's not that it's not important, because like I said, it could be your kid or something. But it's things that are always imposing on your time. Quadrant 1, firefighting. We will never completely eliminate quadrant 1 activities because in our business, the nature of it, really hot, quadrant 1 stuff. Really cold or a customer gets upset, there's always stuff going on. So you're always going to have some level of quadrant 1. We're going to talk about hopefully how we can reduce the amount of time we spend in quadrant 1. Quadrant number 3, urgent but not really important. Dr. Covey used to call this the quadrant of deception. And he said it will bankrupt your business, and I found that to be very accurate. It's things that are urgent because they're acting on you. Somebody's calling you, somebody's knocking on your office door, they're catching you in the hallway, so it's acting on you, but it's not truly important to you. It's somebody else's priority imposing on your priorities. This could be something like a meeting that you're required to be at that has nothing to do with you, right? This could be you're in your office trying to get some work done. Somebody comes to your office door and says, hey, man, what'd you think about that game last night? It's urgent because it's acting on you, but it's not really important. And this can happen a lot. We were talking this morning about how sometimes people in business, when they kind of hit a wall with one particular thing they're working on, they just move to something else, right? And that other thing may not be important, right? So you got to be really careful about things acting on you that are a waste of your time. For example, let's say a territory manager is calling on you. This territory manager wants to get you to use their brand. And you're happy with your current brand. But he bugs you every day for a couple of months, and finally you agree to meet with him and go through their deal, their pitch, right? Now he's in your office. It's urgent because you said you'd be there at 1 o'clock. But it's not really important. You know you're not changing suppliers. But this guy just badgered his way into your life. And so you're wasting an hour that you're never going to get back. Those are very important things to examine your life for. Things that are urgent but not really important. Other people's priorities imposing on your priorities. Number 4, not urgent, not important. Waste and excess. Too much time on Facebook, too much time on anything that's a waste of time. That's not to say that some Facebook or some TV is wrong. It's just too much of a good thing type of thing. I love to play golf. I could justifiably say that golf is a quadrant 2 activity, a very healthy activity, which we'll talk about in a second. But if I played 3 rounds of golf a day and didn't go to work, it would be in quadrant 4, right? Not important, it's not urgent, it's a complete waste of my time. It's too much of anything, right? And then we have quadrant number 2, the quadrant of effectiveness. The most important things in your life are in quadrant 2. They are the things that are very important, but they're not urgent. And the irony is the things in quadrant 2 that are most important in your life are the easiest to postpone. Date night with your wife, going to the gym, coming here for 2 days. Is this important to the long-term health of your business? Could you have easily postponed it and come next time? So it's not really urgent because Colorado's not coming to you. We're not going to impose on you. We're out here. You have to proactively go out and pursue quadrant 2 activities. Sales training, tech training, all quadrant 2 stuff. Super important, but not really urgent because you could easily postpone it. And so if you look at your prosperity plan, for example, your family goals, your business and financial goals and health goals, all of those things are in quadrant 2 because they're important, but none of them are urgent. Quadrant 1 and 3 will act on you. Quadrant 2 will never act on you. You have to go get it. It's kind of like talked about poverty versus wealth, right? Poverty will come to you. Wealth you have to pursue. Well, quadrant 2 is like that. The most important things in your life are in quadrant 2. Date night with your wife, time with your kids, going to the gym, planning for your business, attending a training like this that can help your business. All things that are important, but they're not really urgent because you could easily postpone them. So our goal is, as leaders, as owners and managers, we want to spend as much time as we can in quadrant 2 and the least amount of time in quadrant 1 and 3, and hopefully very little or none in quadrant 4. To do this, you have to delegate. You can't let other people just come in. I kid Krista sometimes. She'll ask me to do something. I'm like, hey, you don't get to delegate up, right? We delegate down, right? You don't get to tell me what to do, which she usually does anyway. So as we walk through these, the quadrant of necessity, those are the firefights in your life. Quadrant number 3, quadrant of deception we talked about, waste and excess in quadrant 4, and then quadrant 2, effectiveness. This is the fire prevention. This is where we do the work to prevent the fire. So as an example, in my company years ago, we were having every afternoon we had a quadrant 1 fire. Around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, inevitably, 2 or 3 or 4 installers would call. They're missing some component they need to finish the job. It's a quadrant 1 fire. The homeowner's already pissed because we said we'd be done by 5 o'clock, and now they got to leave and go get parts and come back, and they're going to be there till 8 o'clock or whatever. They got to leave the job at 3 o'clock, get stuck in rush hour traffic. They go buy the part, and by the time they get back, an hour and a half has gone by. It's a problem for everybody. It's a fire. And we would talk to the guys and say, well, can we plan better and different things? And just no matter how much we talked about it, it never got better. So what I decided one day, I got together with my managers and also our key suppliers on parts and materials. And I said, folks, we are going to engage in 1 hour of quadrant 2 activity, planning, prevention, preparation, relationship building, all those things. We're going to spend 1 hour a week in quadrant 2 planning to avoid these quadrant 1 fires every afternoon. And it only took 6 meetings, so 6 hours. We'd meet every Wednesday afternoon for 1 hour. Our TM would come in, our other suppliers would come in, all the managers, and we would sit there. The door gets closed, phones go off, right? We're going to work in quadrant 2. No quadrant 1 or quadrant 3 interruptions. We're in quadrant 2, don't mess with me. And we sat there for 6 weeks, 6 hours, and figured out a plan whereby the supplier would package. We had a kind of order by number system. And then if my install manager ordered a number 2, 3-ton, they knew exactly what that meant. They would take all the equipment, all the materials, everything the installers could conceivably need, and they would shrink wrap them, and then they would go on the dock and our guys would pick them up. They get to the job site. They had everything on there that was part of this package. If they had materials they didn't use, they would use them the next morning when they picked up the next day's job. 6 hours in quadrant 2, planning, preparation, prevention, eliminated all the quadrant 1 fires every afternoon. And that's kind of a quintessential example of spending time planning your business, planning your life, so that you don't get overrun by these quadrant 1 fires. This is a perfect example. Gary mentioned that we were down there with Krista on these 2 new companies we just picked up in Arizona. And we spent 2.5 days. And at first the owners are like, 2.5 days, man, sitting here, we got stuff to do. Okay, go fight fires. You'll never get out of it. Sometimes, you've heard people say, we don't have time for fire prevention. We're too busy fighting fires. And you get caught in the rat race. You get caught in the craziness of it. And you have all these quadrant 2 things you got to do at work today. You want to write that sales plan. You want to do some sales training, or you want to write a marketing plan. You want to organize your financials. You got some quadrant 2 stuff you want to go work on, but you get to the office and you get hit with quadrant 1 fires the second you walk in, and next thing you know, it's 4:30, you're exhausted. Covey says an interesting thing. It might be in the video I'm going to do. He talks about people that spend all their time in quadrants 1 and 3 are so exhausted at the end of the day, they just go lose themselves in quadrant 4 bullshit. He doesn't say bullshit. He would never say it. But they just lose themselves in quadrant 4 mindless activity. So the key to this thing is we have to identify what the quadrant 2, what Dr. Covey called the big rocks or the BHAGs. The big rocks in your life are the big boulders. They are the most important priorities in your life and your business, and you have to structure your life around them. I'm going to show you how to do that. And you cannot let the quadrant 1 pebbles get in the way of the boulders. This is what happens very much. You spend all day doing stupid shit that somebody else should be doing. I can give you an example. I remember one time when we had our offices here in town before COVID, I would walk in the office, and there was this young lady, very nice young lady. I can't remember who she was, but she worked there for us, and she was new. And I'd walk in the door, and she was like the receptionist, and she would say, hey, when are you supposed to go to Florida? And it was very tempting for me to stop and pull up my calendar, and tell her. But there was a process. She had my speaking manager to go to and find out when I was going to Florida. And she did it one time, and I stopped, and I started to do it. I'm like, this is her quadrant 3 stuff. It's not my priority. I go to Florida when I go to Florida. She has a boss to talk to about that stuff. And so I would stop, and people will take it really wrong sometimes. Like, can you just tell me? It's the point. It's the principle. Like, your job is to go to so-and-so and find out my schedule if you need to ship books or something there. Don't grab me in the hallway and start asking me this stuff. Because quadrant 3 stuff and quadrant 1 stuff will always be coming at you. Somebody else's bullshit imposing on you. And Krista will tell you I'm pretty good about keeping myself in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 for me is producing and delivering content. If I'm doing anything besides those things, I cost everybody money. Because I'm the only one in our company, I'm the content guy. I write the books, I do the seminars, I do whatever. And every now and then I get dragged into other stuff. Krista does a really good job of keeping me out of most of it. But when she first went to work with me 7 years ago, sometimes she'd get me into bullshit. But as she gained confidence and learned more about everything, like she'll handle the meetings I won't even know they happened. That's glorious. That's what I want, But that's because I've been really, really careful about not getting too caught up in quadrant 1 and quadrant 3 things. Every minute I spend out of quadrant 2, it actually hurts the business. If I'm not producing content, writing a book, doing a seminar, doing an event, doing a webinar, whatever, then I'm doing something somebody else should be doing. And so in your business, as the general manager, as the sales manager, as the owner, you need to make sure that you're not getting sucked into other people's responsibilities. And you have to draw the boundaries to stay in quadrant 2.
So the key to this thing is to make sure that you're focusing on your quadrant 2 activities, those things that are super, super important, but they're not urgent. They're not going to act on you. You have to act on them. But that is the real key to success.